What is up, everybody? Thank you for being here, as always. I want to do a quick video on my take on Matt Campbell to Penn State. Uh, Interesting hire. I like Matt Campbell. I do think that he is a solid replacement for James Franklin. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm not 100% convinced either that he is going to be the guy long term. Uh, a couple of a couple of metrics to kind of support that. Um, One being the obvious, Iowa State is not a powerhouse program. They're not in a powerhouse conference. The Big 12 is nowhere close to the Big 10 in regards to the competition that you have to play week in, week out. Um, However, he is young, he's innovative, he's high football IQ, seems like a nice guy, seems like a high character guy. So everything that you'd want in kind of a rebuild, I think. I want to put a quick side by side comparison up between the two. Their win percentages and overall records very similar. You got 107 and 70 with a 604 win percentage for Matt Campbell. You got a 128 and 60 overall record, win percentage of 681 for James Franklin. So very close, kind of statistically irrelevant with how similar they are. Bowl games, they're both pretty much 500. James Franklin 8-7 in bowl games. Matt Campbell 5-5 in bowl games. It's the second stat that got James Franklin fired. 4-21 against AP top 10 teams is very bad. That shows the school, that shows the fans that you don't have that clutch gene in you. Um, and that's really what ultimately Penn State used as their defense to move on from him. Matt Campbell 4-6 versus AP top 10 schools at Iowa State. That's so much better, not just by win percentage, but to have the same number of AP top 10 wins as James Franklin in a much smaller sample size does say something. Um, to play devil's advocate in James Franklin's defense, though, is that the top 10 schools that James was having to play on a regular basis, they're not built the same as the top 10 teams that Matt was probably having to coach against in the Big 12. Um, and, I know that top 10 is top 10, but like, you even look at the CFP this season, does anybody really think that Texas Tech is in the same atmosphere as Ohio State? I don't. I mean, I think most people would agree that they don't. They're the number 4 team in the country, but it's a big disparaging difference between 1 and 4 this year. It's kind of how I feel with their resumes against top 10 schools. Um, Matt, though, in his defense, and this is something that I think naysayers will eventually have to acknowledge a bit, is that Matt was winning with much lesser talent and a lot less money than Penn State has. So that says something about his ability to develop young men, both on and off the field. Um, the fans love him. I know that Iowa State fans are not happy to lose him, but this was a really good career shift for him. Um, I will say that I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing right out the gate for Penn State under Matt Campbell. It wouldn't shock me if they're maybe the first couple of seasons are like a 8-4 caliber, maybe 9-3 at best type of seasons, until he kind of gets acclimated to the new cycle of recruits. He's probably going to bring in a couple of guys with him from Iowa State, but maybe coaches as well. Um, James Franklin, I think, does have a slight advantage right now with recruits. Virginia is a very underrated state for high school football talent. Um, and he's also bringing a lot of commits that were committed to Penn State with him. So that does say something. Um, I'm happy for Penn State fans. You finally you got the position filled. You got a solid human being in that slot. Um, Lord only knows, what Matt Campbell wasn't plan A, wasn't plan B, C, D. I don't know what letter they were on, but uh, they kind of shit the bed this cycle. They really did. Penn State was a highly desirable job, um, and they waited too long. Pat Kraft, the AD there, seems unhinged. Uh, he it would behoove the school to get rid of him sooner rather than later. I do think he's a net negative for their program. Because that's kind of the other thing too when it comes to like recruiting. If you paid any attention to the leaked audio from that meeting with Kraft and talking with the other players and coaches and whatnot, there was even a player in it that spoke up, talking about how hard it is to get high level recruits to move to the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Um, that's not going to be a problem for James, I don't think, at Virginia Tech. And when you take all those things into consideration, James Franklin is probably a top 10 coach in the country. Like let's be honest. Yes, 4-21 against the top 10 is not good. But he's coming off of a CFP semifinal appearance. He went to a Big Ten title last year. Yes, he didn't win, but that Oregon team was also loaded. He Tons of 10-win seasons under his belt. The guy can coach. The guy brought Vanderbilt back to relevance. Like that says something. He James Franklin is largely responsible for Vandy being relevant right now. Even um, I understand all sides. I understand why they felt the need to get rid of him. He wasn't. He lacked that clutch gene, if you will. Um, and they probably look at the fact that Matt has the same number of wins against AP top 10 schools and says, well, we think that you have a better chance at getting us over the hump against these types of teams than James did, which I think is fair. I understand the logic. It's just kind of a waiting game now. It's yet to be seen, but I'm excited to see how it goes. I am a fan of both of these gentlemen. I wish them both luck. Um, so, yep, we're just going to go from there. And Penn State, you got your guy. Congratulations.